τον κύριο Sandro Forte.
Good afternoon. It is a great pleasure to be with you all. Thank you so much for spending so much time with MDRT today. Now, I have had the great privilege of speaking in 88 countries. Cyprus is number 89. So thank you for having me. I'm a very proud MDRT member. I'm also a very proud father, and I'm an even prouder grandfather. Thank you. I have two beautiful grandchildren, a boy, Tyler, he's 8 years old, and my little princess, she's 4 years old, her name is Ivy. And Ivy is staying with me at the moment because my son is having some work done on his home. And before I left to come to Cyprus, Ivy said to me, "Grandad, where are you going?" And I said, "I'm flying on an aeroplane and I'm going to a lovely island called Cyprus." And she said, "Grandad, are you going to speak at one of those conferences again?" And I said, "I am." She said, "Grandad, do you think they will enjoy your presentation?" I said, "Ivy, I don't know, darling, but I hope they will enjoy my presentation." She said, "Grandad, when you finish speaking, do you think they will give you a round of applause?" And I said, "Darling, I do not know, but I hope they will give me a round of applause." She said, "Grandad, when you finish your presentation, do you think they will give you a standing ovation?" So, ladies and gentlemen, my son gave me his phone. He asked me to take a video of the standing ovation, okay? So please understand, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for Ivy. Is that okay? Yeah? So whenever you're ready, I'll just video the standing ovation. Is that okay? Okay, ready? Oh, thank you so much. Oh, you're so kind. You just made a little girl very happy. Thank you so much. Now, how many people have heard me speak before? Do we have a clicker? How many people have heard me speak before? Raise your hand. Oh, not many. Okay. Please raise your hand if you have not heard me speak before. Wow. Okay. And please raise your hand if you don't care whether you've heard me speak before or not. I have your cards marked. Okay. Now, I'm going to take this opportunity. Tony mentioned earlier that MDRT, and what makes it so great is that we all aspire to be like someone. And when I was younger, I, of course, aspired to be like Tony Gordon. But this man was my very first mentor. He gave me my very first speaking opportunity. I wasn't very good, but he took a chance. And Tony, I want to take this opportunity to thank you publicly for all you have done. Now, of course, if you don't enjoy my presentation this afternoon, it's Tony Gordon's fault, okay? So I have, in the short time that I have with you today, I have 6 ideas that I promise will transform your lives and your businesses. But I have a very, very important question. Are you really serious about success in this business? How serious are you? Because for exactly the same reasons that clients will not buy from us unless they are really serious, we cannot achieve success, whatever success means to us, unless we are really serious. Quite serious, 5 out of 10 serious, is not serious enough. If you are not really serious about success in this business, please go and get a cup of coffee, because I will be wasting your time. If, however, you are really serious about achieving success in 2024, I have 6 ideas to share with you. Before I share those ideas, there's one very important word in the English language, and it is the word belief. Now, we all have beliefs, some of us more positive than others, mainly based on our experiences. experience of the life and business, but we all have a belief system. Now, in the middle of the word belief is the word lie. And the word lie exists there for a very important reason. Because the reality is that we are all, or have been at some time, members of the discouragement club. Now, how many people here know what I talk about when I mention the discouragement club? Okay, now if you know what I'm talking about, then please make a decision never to join this club. And if you are currently a member of this club, you must quit the club. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the discouragement club is this group of people that you will see in your office every day and in society, and their job, it is their only job. Their job is to stop other people being successful. They will give you all the reasons why you cannot achieve success. My manager's no good. The economy's bad. There's a global pandemic. My clients don't have enough money to buy insurance. They don't believe in insurance. They're too busy. Their business is their pension. These are all excuses. But a little voice sits on our shoulder and it gives us these excuses. Why? Because it likes to keep us comfortable. Success in this business is not comfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's the price we pay for success. So when we sit down at the start of the year, we call them New Year's resolutions. We write down on a piece of paper, this year, I'm going to be the #1 agent in my company. At the end of the year, what happens? We reflect on, a fairly average year. But the good news is, the little voice on your shoulder says, don't worry, there's always next year. And you kick the can down the road, don't you? For years and years and years, making excuse after excuse. And then at some point in the future, you look back over your shoulder and you ask yourself this very important question. If only I had ... If only I had ... My question to you is, what will your ... be? What will your ... be? We all have beliefs. We can choose, consciously, subconsciously, to make them positive, and that's why MDRT is an important part of my life, or we can choose to listen to the little voice on the shoulder and kick the can down the road, blaming other people and society and our clients, all the other reasons why we don't succeed. Years ago, many years ago, I created a belief system, and it was the same belief system that was shared by many financial advisors in my hometown. This photograph is of my father, Leo, and my mother, Carol. And this photograph was taken in the year I was born, 1968. I know. And my father, Leo, was a very successful restaurateur. We lived in a big house, had plenty of money. We lived a fine lifestyle, a couple of holidays a year. I was the eldest of 4 children when my father, Leo, in the summer of 1976, suddenly, with no warning, was diagnosed with lung cancer. Now, I was a young child, 7 years old. I didn't even know my father was sick. My mother and my father chose not to tell us, and my father died later in 1978 after battling a very, very difficult, dreadful disease. Within 2 years of my father's death, a successful businessman, my mother was bankrupt. Everything was gone. The house, the business, the car, the money, everything was gone. I am not telling you this story because it's tragic. Every one of us has a story. I'm telling you this because not one single person ever approached my father to talk about financial planning. Why? Because every time they went to his restaurant, they would look at him and they would say, Leo Forte, very successful guy, doesn't need financial planning, must have a financial planner, must have life insurance. How many times have we ever asked ourselves that question? Whenever we've seen a high net worth or business prospect, in our minds we've thought to ourselves, not much point in having a conversation. They must have someone that deals with them. And every single financial planner in my hometown asked themselves the same question. And so, everyone procrastinated. No one did anything. No one spoke to my father. Within 2 years, my mother had lost everything. Now, they do say when one door closes in life, another one opens. And when I was 13 years of age, this wonderful man walked in through our metaphorical door. He was someone who took on 4 children. He had 2 children of his own. We were living at that time in a tiny welfare accommodation property, and it was a struggle. No money. It was a tough few years. But this man embraced our family. He took on all the responsibility. He had to give up his full-time job to help my mother, who had never worked, look after the family. We made so many sacrifices, this man especially. And this wonderful man who was to become my best friend in the world, his name was Dave. And one of the things that Dave always said to me was, always be the best you can be. Don't try to win the race. Don't try to be number one, because so many people are disappointed if they want to always try and be first in the race or number one in their company. As Tony mentioned earlier, look yourself in the mirror at the end of every day and ask yourself, did I give my best? Was I the best version of myself today? If the answer is yes, you should be more than satisfied. For the reality, unfortunately, is not many of us can ever answer that question openly and honestly. But this amazing man, he educated me. He was my wise old owl. He was the person who always had the answer to every question I ever posed as a teenager growing up. When I came into financial services at the age of 21, I left university. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I did not wake up one day when I was 14 years old and think, Eureka, I want to be a financial planner. I decided that I needed to pay off my student debt, and I joined a local financial consultancy business, working for a guy called Tony, not this Tony, another Tony, and I struggled. I struggled in the first 2 years, didn't write any business. I was working from, a few cold calls, a couple of leads that Tony was kind enough to give me, but I was young and I was inexperienced, and I looked 14 years of age. So every time I went to see a new prospective client, I would think, they're going to say no to me because they're going to wonder what I can tell them that they don't already know. All of those challenges that we all have. And that apprenticeship, again, that Tony mentioned earlier, that apprenticeship is the price we pay for future success, providing we do something with the things we learn. I didn't learn enough in the first 2 years, and most of all, I did not apply what I was being told. I chose to make excuse after excuse. And every day when I walked home from my office, I would see this potential prospect, Dave, my best friend in the world. And every day for 2 years, I would say to myself, today is the day I'm going to have a conversation with Dave about life insurance. As the breadwinner in the family, if anything happens to him, our lives change again. And I cannot see my mother go through the heartache and the hardship that she went through many years before. Every day I had that decision in my mind. Every day I created that conversation, and every day I made that promise that I would speak to Dave. But I learned very early in my career that there is a big difference between the promises you make and the actions you take. It took me 2 years to have a conversation with Dave. I cannot, in all honesty, remember what I said, what prompted me to have the conversation. Maybe it was something simple like, I was just sick of making the same excuse. And on the 8th of December, 1991, I found some words in my mind, and I simply said to Dave, I know you're going to say no, but I really think it's important that I at least talk to you about insurance cover. And to my surprise, he said, you know what, it's something that I haven't really thought a lot about, but you're right, maybe if something happens to me, like it did your father, I don't want your mother to end up in the same situation. He was a little overweight. We had to take him through a medical. He got a rated premium, so it was even more expensive now. But he became a client, my very first client in the business, after 2 years, would you believe, in January 1992. And I remain prouder of that sale, and I don't think sale is a swear word, by the way. I remain prouder of that moment, that sale, that moment I turned a promise into an action than anything I've ever done since in this business. There are two words, two very important words, and I would love you to write these down. Tap them into your phone, write them on the sleeve of the person next to you. I don't care what you do, but please remember these two words. I have another question. Which of these words, discipline and regret, are painful? Which one of these two words is painful? Excellent. Both of them are painful. Let me make my first promise to you this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow MDRT members, fellow MDRT aspiring members, if you do not do the first one in life, I guarantee you will get the second. Guarantee it. So you have a choice. You either do the things that can feel a bit uncomfortable, put the 15 meetings in your diary every week, make the call that you don't really want to make, communicate as openly and as effectively as you can with as many people as you can, or look back over your shoulder and ask yourself the question, if only I had ... Okay, let's look at these 6 key areas that I think will help you to transition to a new place. You're all successful. Congratulations on what you've achieved, but we all have further to go. Number 1 is learn how to be an amazing communicator. Now, I did not say great salesperson. I did not say great agent. You don't need to have experience. You don't need to have qualifications to be a great communicator. Now, the reality, unfortunately, when we hear from our other speakers about activity, the reality, unfortunately, is we are not active enough. Show me somebody with 15 meetings in their diary. I show you somebody who's TOT. That's another guarantee. But the reality is we don't have those conversations. So how do we have those conversations? I'm not here to share with you a cold calling technique, but actually there's a really simple way to reach everybody in Cyprus and Greece and all the different countries that we come from. And it's called Facebook. It's called your mobile telephone. We are surrounded by names and telephone numbers. When was the last time you just looked in your mobile telephone, found a name that you haven't spoken to for a few years, and just called them and say, hello, how are you? I saw on Facebook that your son has just started his first term at school. Congratulations. I read that your mother was not very well. Please give her my best wishes. I know we haven't spoken for a few years, but I just want to send my best wishes. Do not follow that with, by the way, let's have a conversation about life insurance. You are opening the door, having a conversation. Now, I don't like rejection, but one of two things will happen every single time. Either they will say, thank you so much for calling, that's a really nice thing to do. Maybe you call them on their birthday, for example. Or they say, very kind of you to call, how are you? And like Sanjay mentions earlier on, this is your opportunity to tell them how you are, what you're doing. You start a conversation. Activity is much, much easier than we think it is. So stick to the basics, communicate with as many people as you can, and by definition, you will have more meaningful conversations. I do not, I'm afraid, have enough time to take you through the 6-step telephone path that I created many years ago that I found to be very, very effective. And what I've learned in this business is that one of the reasons why many of us fail or do not achieve the success we would like is because, unfortunately, what we do is we give clients control of the relationship. What do I mean by that? Well, in the past, when I started this business, I was told, make 100 phone calls, you'll be lucky if you make a couple of sales. And I would ice break and I would ask the client, would you like to become a client? I'm kind of being a bit flippant about all of this, but in basic terms, the client knew I needed them more than they needed me. And that is the wrong way to look at it. Every one of my clients needs me more than I need them. And you turn this around, instead of saying, hello, my name is Sandro Forte from Allianz, for example, you say, hello, my name is Sandro Forte from Allianz. I was speaking with our mutual friend Tony Gordon yesterday. All of a sudden, instead of the prospect focusing on the word Allianz, because the brain is then going, Allianz, insurance company, this is a sales call, not interested. How many times do we hear that? All of a sudden, we're now focusing on the third person, Tony Gordon in this case. Now their focus is on the person I've helped or spoken to the day before. There's a 6-step process. Maybe we have time to examine it tomorrow. If not, happy to talk to any of you about it. But that's a good example of how we give control to people. It's almost like subconsciously we are desperate for them to say yes. But if we take control, the dynamic in the relationship changes. Number 2, and this is one of my favorites. I didn't do so well for the first few years, and the reason was that I joined an organization, and this will resonate with Tony and some of the more experienced advisors and managers in the room. I used to focus on the sale, the outcome. And I worked in an office where if someone made a sale, they would ring the bell. Tony will remember things like that. The problem is my focus was always on the sale meant success and no sale meant failure. And that was a problem for me. Instead, what I did is I started to make sure that every part of the process was as positive, was as good as I could possibly make it. And I learned statistically that actually, as long as you follow due process, you engage with somebody that is serious about successful financial planning, the outcomes always took care of themselves. And a good example of that is at the first meeting. Again, mentioning the word control. Now, I don't know, you probably have your own process. For me, when I get to the first meeting, which is that moment when I create the rules of engagement, I build that relationship based on my criteria, my rules. And I say to my prospective client, Kyriakos, I believe there are 2 reasons we are meeting today. The first one is we are going to decide whether we like each other, whether we trust each other, and whether we can work together. Does that sound okay? Now, already what I'm saying to him in his mind is, you can choose to hire or fire me, no problem. But I choose to hire and fire you as well. So no longer do we have a relationship where I'm the subservient agent who is waiting for the business. I make the same decision that my prospective client makes. Subconsciously, this is a very powerful rule number 1. Rule number 2, Kyriakos, at the moment I don't know if I can help you. But with your permission, I will gather, confidentially of course, some information, and I would like you to give me as much information as you can, because the quality of advice I'm able to give you is based entirely on the quality of information you give to me. Is that okay? Now, logically, he says in his mind, if I don't give him good information, he doesn't give me good advice. And it makes him accountable for the advice I'm going to give him, which actually eliminates persistency problems, it eliminates rejection, it eliminates lapses, and it eliminates complaints in the future, because he takes ownership of this relationship in exactly the same way that I do. This is also a perfect opportunity for me to deal with objections. Now, I haven't had an objection from Kyriakos yet, but I'm going to preempt the objection by saying, now when we spoke on the phone originally, Kyriakos, you said you dealt with a financial advisor before, you didn't have a good experience. Or you said to me that, you'd read about my company in the local newspaper and it wasn't a great article. Kyriakos, I know what you're thinking. I look quite young or inexperienced, and this happened to me when I first joined at the age of 21. My first client that I went to see, husband, wife, 8 o'clock in the evening, they're looking at this young man, 21, he looks 14, and I know that they're thinking, he's inexperienced. How can we trust him with our financial planning? And I said, Kyriakos, my prospective client, before we go any further, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this guy looks about 14, what can he do for us that we do not already know? But Kyriakos, I can make you one promise that very, very few other financial planners can make you in the UK. And he said, what's that? And I said, I can offer you long-term service. And it broke the ice. They laughed. And the elephant in the room, the problem was gone. Don't wait for the objections. Deal with them. Make them your rules. So if there are any potential problems, deal with them at the beginning, because it makes you more trustworthy. People see you as transparent rather than hiding behind, I'll tell him about the commission right at the end and hope he doesn't listen. That's not a way to engender and build trust with a client. So your rules, you make them whatever you like, deal with them at the beginning. Number 3, do not let the business run you. Now, MDRT is very, very focused on this concept we call whole person. Now, I'm a very proud father and a grandfather, I'm a brother, and I have an extended family, I have friends, and I work really hard. And sometimes it's very easy to lose focus. Sometimes it's very easy to forget that my life isn't just about my business. So one of the systems that I developed many years ago was something I call the yellow box diary system. Now, this is a very simple version, but you can put it on your iPhone or iPad. And basically, it's divided into 3 colors. The yellow boxes are what I call in activity, working in my business. So when I am in a yellow box, I am seeing my prospective or current clients. So first meetings or second meetings, sometimes service meetings, but first or second meetings. So business income generation, let me put it like that. The blue boxes are the strategic time. So I call that on activity, working on my business, prospecting, producing quotations, strategy, building goals, attending a conference like this. This is all on or strategic activity. And then the red boxes is me time. The time for me, my family, go to the gym, see my friends, spend time with my family. Now, a question that I have for you, it's pretty simple, I think. Which one of these 3 activities, in, on, or me time, do you put in your diary first? If you want to be really successful. If you want to be really successful in this business, it's red time, it's me time first. Because otherwise what happens is you don't enjoy success. You don't have that balance. You look back over your shoulder in the future and ask yourself, if only I had, ... And you know what? When you put this activity in your diary first and a client says to you, I can only meet you at 8 p.m. on Friday, and you have got dinner with your significant other, husband or wife, in the diary 8 p.m. on Friday, you do not say what many advisors mistakenly do is, okay, no problem. And the next thing they do is they call their significant other and they say, hello, darling, it's me. I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is, you know that prospect that I've been talking to for many months, the one that wants to invest 1 million euros, he wants to meet me. The bad news is we have to change our dinner arrangements. That is not a business that you run. That is a business that runs you. And if you say to somebody, I'm sorry, I cannot see you on Friday at 8 p.m., you know what they say? Okay, when can you meet? Please, please, please make sure you run your business. Do not let your business run you. On that subject, there are 2 ways to become more successful, I think, in this business, depending on how you view success. One is work harder. Please raise your hand if you would like ideas on how to work harder. Really? What about working smarter, increasing average case size, working less for more money, spending more time with your families, not compromising your productivity? So one of the things that I do every year is I segment my clients. Now, I do it slightly differently to others because most people, they choose their best client as the one that's got the most money. Now, for me, I don't agree with that. That's my own personal view. For me, my very best clients are the ones that have money, let me put it like that, future business opportunity, but I have a great relationship with them. They love me, I love them, we both know it, and they are going to become not just clients of the future, giving me more business, they will also become great advocates of me and my business. They are the perfect clients. The B clients are not the ones with the next amount of money. They're not the ones that are second on the wealth list. These are the ones that I have great relationships with, but there's just no future opportunity. There's no more money to invest, there's no more insurance to buy, but they love me and I love them. Because they are the ones that will go and find me new business opportunity like the A's in the future. The C's might well have future business opportunity for me, but if I don't like them and they don't like me, they're probably not going to give it to me. So for them, they are the sustainable clients of the future. They're the ones that will keep paying the premiums, they won't give me new business, but they will create a good, steady income stream. The ones that don't like me, or I don't like them, and there's no future business opportunities, they are the ones I need to get rid of. They're the ones I need to push away. Maybe find a young agent to nurture and develop them. Change of relationship often produces different results. Number 4, become an icon. Now, what do I mean when I talk about becoming iconic? I think there are three rules to becoming iconic. And iconic means I don't have to work very hard to find clients. They find me because people talk about me. They have an experience that they share with others. So iconic for me is 3 things. Number 1, personality. Now, I do not mean my personality or your personality. I mean the personality of our businesses. What do they mean? What do they look like? What do they stand for? Is there an end-to-end process that clients can come to understand as consistent? And if they are consistent, they trust in it more. And if they trust in it more, they tell more people. And that is called consensus. Consensus, the greatest advocates, exponents of consensus, a fairly well-known company, Amazon. I don't know about you, every time I buy something on Amazon, the first thing I look for is the product, and then I want to know what everyone else thinks about it. If it's 4.5 stars or higher, it's a good product, isn't it? But I don't know whether it's a good product. I just listen to the views of my peers, other people. So becoming iconic is about creating an identity. What do you stand for? Is it consistent? Can people trust in it? Number 2, education. Education does not mean academia. It does not mean having lots of certificates on your wall. Education means taking a very, very complex subject like financial planning and making it really simple for your clients. That's the art of good financial planning. Make it really, really simple. And if you learn the art of making the complex simple, high net worth, business owners, families, divorcees, other professional people will refer business to you, because that's a fundamental principle to engaging and gaining better and more trusted relationships. And then the final one, very important word, visibility. Let me say this to you. People do not do business with people they cannot see. Make yourselves as visible as possible. Do philanthropic work. Join the MDRT Foundation if you like. Do stuff in your community. I'm not a great social media fan, but I employ somebody to do that work for me so I can be as visible as possible. How many times has somebody called you and said, "Oh, I've just seen you on Facebook and it reminded me to call you"? People can't do business with you if they can't see you. So think about all the ways that you can become more visible. Number 5, create an experience. Now, I don't know about you, but I have never gone to Starbucks for a great coffee. And I've never gone to McDonald's for a great meal. Have you? But there is a reason why these are 2 very iconic businesses, super successful. Apple is another good example. There is a reason, and it is not the product, it is not the price, it is the experience they create. So what experience do you create for your clients? Because if you're just perceived as just another financial advisor in your community, I walk in here with 1 million euros to spend or to invest. How do I choose you over you or you over you? How do I do that? If you're all the same, I can't choose. So what experience do you deliver? Let me give you one good example. In 2020, we had a global pandemic. I was hearing that we couldn't do business with anyone, you couldn't build relationships via Zoom, everyone was locked down, couldn't see people face to face, the economy was failing, and pretty much every advisor in the UK, they did what we always do when times are difficult. They pulled the metaphorical duvet over their head and waited for the good times to return. Isn't that what we do sometimes? Tony mentioned earlier, this is an amazing opportunity. We have an abundant opportunity now. Why? Because this is the back of 3 years of economic challenges. So great opportunity to have conversations with people rather than at the end of an economic boom. But most people, unfortunately, retreat to the safety of their office, of their home. They don't have the conversations, and unfortunately, by the time they do, other financial advisors have spoken to them or the opportunity is gone. We created a 79-page PDF magazine. It was like a self-help guide. And this magazine, which we did not produce, I got a marketing company to do it for me. It had recipes, it had help on homeschooling your children, it had fitness exercises, it had a whole range of puzzles, games, a whole range of different things. Financial articles, 79 pages. And we sent it to 420 clients, asking them only to do one thing. If you like the magazine, please share it with anybody that you think at the moment might be struggling a little bit with homeschooling, staying mentally and physically fit. 420 people sent 3,150 people that PDF magazine. And in 2020, we had our best ever year. In a pandemic year, I did not leave my home, and I had my best ever year. Because I was trying to be proactive when everyone else was being reactive. So that's just an example of how easy creating an experience can be. Another little couple of words for you to write down. Again, very important. Our reputation as financial professionals is, is based on two things. It's a very, very simple equation. Your reputation, my reputation, as financial planners is based on two things. The first one is the expectation that your new prospective clients have when they walk in through your door. Everyone has an expectation. The experience that you then deliver is very important, because if the experience does not match or exceed the expectation, your reputation declines. If that experience you deliver exceeds the expectation, your reputation increases. Nice and simple. Here's the problem. How do we know what people's expectations are? That's a challenge for many of us. It's a very, very simple solution to that one. You ask what I call the killer question. And the killer question is really simple. You ask it as you are onboarding, as you're doing business with your new prospective client. And at some point towards the end of the second meeting, you simply say, "Thank you so much for becoming a client. I'm looking forward to working with you. Can I just ask you a quick question before we leave? What does great service look like to you exactly?" What does great service look like to you exactly? And the word exactly is really important, because I want my prospective client to prescribe in detail what great service looks like. Now, if they are recently divorced, they probably are feeling very vulnerable. They want me to hold their hand quite a bit. Maybe, can we speak every 3 months? Okay, no problem. After 1 year, maybe they don't want every 3 months, every 6 months, or every year, no problem. There will also be clients who think they know more than me. They don't want me to call them. They'll just call me when they're ready. That's okay. The problem is we say, as a financial planner, I see all my clients every year. That's fine, great for some clients, not great for others. So always be clear about what your client expects. You then have one task to deliver that expectation. If you do, reputationally, you will become iconic in this business. And then the final one, it is my favorite, it is the most important, and we hear it spoken about so much. I started my presentation today with this, and I'm going to finish my presentation today with this. Number 6, the most important of all, because it doesn't have anything to do with experience, how long you've been in this business, how many qualifications you have, which company you work for, whether they're the most expensive, the cheapest, how many products they've got. It's based on what you do, putting one foot in front of another, maintaining some balance, just like you did when you were a kid, learning to walk for the first time. It was uncomfortable. It was painful when you fell flat on your face many, many, many times. But you picked yourself up and you repeated the process over and over and over again. Every successful MDRT member I know picks themselves up and just keeps putting one foot in front of another. That is the difference. It isn't anything else. It's nothing technical. It's not based on the fact that they come from a different place, work in a different country. They have this unique ability to pick themselves up and keep going regardless. It took me 2 years to have that conversation with Dave, 2 years. And I had that conversation in the end on the 8th of December 1991. He became a client shortly after the turn of the year in 1992. And I'm proud of that moment, proud of the fact that I managed to overcome the little voice on my shoulder, proud of the fact that I put one foot in front of another for the first time in my career. Why? Because just 4 weeks after I sold my stepfather that first policy in my career, I came home from the office one day. My mother was stood by the window in our sitting room. The doctor, in those days the doctor would come to your house. The doctor was stood next to my mother who was crying, and my stepfather Dave was sitting on the sofa with his head in his hands. And I said, what's going on? What's happening? And I learned in that moment that my stepfather Dave, my best friend in the world, had been diagnosed with stomach cancer. And I couldn't believe it was happening to my family all over again. This time we learned that Dave had had this stomach cancer for 18 months, they think. They had missed the symptoms of the cancer in the medical. While I was thinking about it, while I was procrastinating, while I was listening to the little voice on my shoulder, my best friend in the world was dying. 4 weeks after his diagnosis, Dave was admitted to hospital, and just a few days later, he was dying. We had spent a good few days, myself, my brother, my 3 sisters, and my mum, taking it in turns to spend time by his bedside in hospital. And on the day he passed, he was unconscious for most of the day. He was in a lot of pain. We spent most of the time with him in 2s and 3s. There was one moment at 12 minutes past 4 on a Tuesday afternoon, I found myself alone with him. Just him and I, first time in a few days. He had been unconscious for many, many hours without warning, He just opened his eyes and he looked me right in the eye and he said to me, "Son, thank you for what you did for your family. I'm so proud of you." I learned in that moment the greatest lesson in my life, the greatest lesson in my financial services career. I learned success is not about what you say you're going to do. It's not about the things you write down on a list in January at the start of the year. It's based on what you do. It's not based on sitting in your seat in life with your hand in the air, waiting for the opportunity to come to you. It's about getting up out of your seat, making the calls, feeling uncomfortable, one foot in front of another. And when you fall, you get up and you do it all over again. That's success in our business. It's nothing more complicated. What we do is unique. We change people's lives. Please, please do not lose sight of what an amazing job you do. Do not lose sight of what an amazing job you do. So ladies and gentlemen, discipline and regret, they are both painful. But if you don't do the first one, you'll always get the second. Thank you.
Impressive presentation from an impressive motivational speaker, Mr. Forte. It was a great honor being with us today. Ο κύριος Χρυσός Θεοδούλου. για την απονομή της αναμνηστικής πλακέτας.